All right, so the final part of our quarter 3 exam review is accumulation of everything that we've talked about, right? We've done all 4 separate reviews covering parallel perpendicular lines, transformations, triangle congruence, triangle similarity, all 4 types. But now we're going to see all of them in one, very similar to the actual exam. So, pardon this, I couldn't find a PDF version of it, so I had to scan this paper in. But you can still see it okay. It still kind of works, right? So we'll go through this whole review. I'll give you all the answers to every question. I'll explain those answers, and it's up to you to study at that point. So number 1, which equation describes the line that passes through -3, 1 and is parallel to the line described by y equals 4x plus 1? So keep in mind it's parallel, and it's parallel to this line. So this line has a slope of 4, so our line should also have a slope of 4, meaning that D and B are bad choices. It's either going to be A or B. Or A or C, rather, right? So remember how we did this? We took the information that we were given, and we tried to find the correct B value. So we know that our slope is going to be 4, and it has to go through this point, -3, 1. So 1 is going to be the y value, 4 is going to be my slope, -3 is going to be my point, and we're going to solve for B. And B should either be -11 or 13. So that'll give us the answer that we need. So when we work it out, 4 times -3 is -12. So we have -12 plus B equals 1. So then we'll add 12 to both sides. And 1 plus 12 is 13. So B is going to be 13, making A the correct answer there. Okay, you can always rewind and pause the screen if you need to. But I am, I'm going to let you guys do that. You guys have the ability to do that. So I'm just going to keep moving on. I'll make the video quick. So, which equation describes a line parallel to the line described by 1/2 x minus 5? So again, parallel to this line means that our slope will also be 1/2. So if our slope is also 1/2, then it can't be D, it can't be B, and it can't be A. The only line that has slope of 1/2 is C. So just based on that alone, it's got to be C. But if you want to know why it's this that has no B value, essentially a B value plus 0, let's work that out, right? So y equals mx plus b. The y value, it doesn't even have one, right? It's not one of those problems. It doesn't give us a point. It just says, basically a line that's parallel to this. A line that has the same slope is C. That's the only one that has a slope of 1/2, same slope as that line. Number 3, which pair of lines is perpendicular? So perpendicular means opposite reciprocal slopes. So this line has a slope of 3, and its partner has a slope of 1/3. Now, these are not opposite reciprocals, so that's not the answer. Opposite reciprocals is similar to this, but one of them has to be negative, remember, for it to be opposite reciprocal. So if it was -1/3 and a +3, that would be good, or if it was a -3 and a +1/3, that would be good. But they can't both be positive. So one's got to be positive, one's got to be negative. Now, in B, we have a slope of 1, and we have a slope of -1/2. Now, these are also, again, not opposite reciprocals, because the opposite reciprocal to -1/2 would be +2, because it'd be 2 over 1. So that's not 1, right? These are not opposite reciprocals either. So it can't be B. C has the same slope, 4 and 4, so that's parallel. That's not going to work. So it can't be C, so it's got to be D. Let's look at D. D, we have a slope of 3/4, and the other slope is -4 over 3, which is opposite reciprocals, because one's positive, one's negative, and you've got the fraction flipped over. So D is definitely the answer here. So sometimes it's easy to just kind of go through a process of elimination with these questions, especially when they're multiple choice. So think of that as a strategy on the actual exam. So number 4, which line is perpendicular to this one? So again, perpendicular means opposite reciprocal slope. So the opposite reciprocal to -1/4 would be a positive 4 over 1, which is the same as just a regular 4. So the only equation here that has a slope of a regular 4 is D, right? Because C has a slope of 1/4, which is not right. A has a slope of -4, which is not right, and then -1/4, which is not right. So it has to be +4. That's answer choice D. What is the slope of a line parallel to the line whose slope is -5/2? So parallel has the same slope. So if this slope is -5/2, then the parallel line is also -5/2. Simple as that. The slope of a line is -8. What's the slope of a perpendicular line to that? So -8, perpendicular means opposite reciprocal. So it would have to change to a positive and then flip this over, positive 1/8. So the answer would have to be positive 1/8. Now number 7, name the theorem or postulate that justifies a congruence. So when you zoom in on this, keep in mind that they share a side. That side counts as a corresponding side. So put the little tick mark. And then now focus your attention on just one of the triangles, okay? So notice we have an angle, we have a side, and we have an angle. So we have two angles and the side. Now, the only two possibilities would be angle, side, angle, or angle, angle, side. So the difference again between them is the side between the angles connecting the angles, or is the side not between the angles and not connecting them? And if you look at this, we have the side connecting these two angles. So we have angle, side, angle. So this one would be angle, side, angle. Oops, ASA. But it's very important that you remember to make that little tick mark to indicate a shared border like that counts as a congruent side. So number 8, a jogging path runs along the river from point C to point E, passing through point A. You want to find the distance across DE. So we're going to find distance across DE using indirect measurement. Which congruence criterion can be used to show that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF? I'm first assuming that F is going to be this angle here. For some reason, I didn't label it, but it's okay. Where point A is, essentially. But what we're essentially doing is we're just looking at these triangles and seeing what postulate we can use. So in this image, we know that this has one pair of angles that correspond. We also know it has a pair of sides that correspond, because 100 and 100 means that those two sides are good. So we have an angle and a side. Now we also need to remember that being vertical angles, that these angles pairs, it's not listed, but those angles count because they are vertical angles. So we have another pair of angles. So we have two angles pairs. We've got, let me identify them again. We have that pair and we have the congruent pairs. So there are two pairs of angles that are congruent. And we have the sides. Now notice, if you look at just one of the triangles, right? Focus your attention on just one rather than the whole picture. If you look at this triangle here, we have two angles and the side that connects them, meaning we have the angle, side, angle. The side connecting the two angles together is angle, side, angle. So that means our answer would be B. Number 9. A figure lies in quadrant 2 of a coordinate plane. This figure is transformed by first reflecting. So we have to go through a process here. Reflecting across the x-axis. So if it reflects across the x-axis, it's going to end up in quadrant 3. So imagine right here, we've got our shape in quadrant 3. And then it's rotated 90 degrees clockwise. So clockwise, remember, is this form. So if it goes 90 degrees clockwise, then it's going to make one turn this direction. What quadrant will be in? Well, if it does that, it will end up back in quadrant 2. So imagine what's happening with this shape. The shape, first, it reflects over the x-axis. So it's going to end up down here. And then it's rotated, so it's taken, after it's flipped over, it's taken and it's turned 90 degrees clockwise, which puts it back in the quadrant 2. So kind of a weird one, but yeah, the answer would be it ends up back in quadrant 2. So go through that process of tracing out where it goes, one step at a time. So number 10, what are the endpoints of A prime, B prime if AB is reflected about the line y equals x? So if it's reflected about the line y equals x, it's going to be reflected over there. Now, one thing to do is write down the ordered pairs. So this graph kind of is terrible because it's going by 2. So let's zoom in real carefully. Let me label this. So it's going by 2. So you got 0 in the middle. You have 2 here, which makes this 4, which makes this 6, right? This would be -2, -4, -6, right? -2, -4, -6, and 2, 4, 6, which means all the little hash marks in between are like the odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, Let me use a brighter color so you guys can probably see that better on your screens. I guess I'll just stick with red. 1, 3, 5, and 7 are all the spaces in between are the odd numbers. So where a is at now, it's at 2 to x and negative 3 to y. So it's at 2, negative 3. Tricky to see, but it's very important that you can find it. B is at 4 for the x and then negative 7 for the y. So if you can write down those points, that's a very, very good start for you. Hard to see, but it works. Now, if it reflects across a line y equals x, follow the rule. So remember, you'll be given this rule. It'll be on the board or it'll be on your cheat sheet. But the rule for a line y equals x is xy translates to yx. So essentially, the points flip around. They don't change their sign, they just flip around. So 2, negative 3 become negative 3, 2. And 4, negative 7 become negative 7, 4. And so these are your answers. Negative 3, 2 would be there. And negative 7, 4 would be there. So that's where it would be, those 2 points. But again, I find it easier than actually graphing it. I find it easier to write the points down that are presented here, A and B, and then just follow the rule. The rule is a very simple thing to follow. I don't have to try and figure it out mentally using the image in my head. You can just follow the rule. Number 11, the vertices of RST are 1, negative 1, 4, 1, and 4, negative 3. What are the coordinates of the image after 90-degree rotation? So 90-degree turn follows the rule. Again, you'll be given this. You just have to remember. A 90-degree rotation, it doesn't say which direction, but I guess we'll go based on counterclockwise, but I'll let you know on the test which version it's talking about if it's like multiple choice. But I'm assuming it's going to be counterclockwise because it's the rules that we were using before. Counterclockwise rule, I have to go back to my review sheet. Let me find it. Counterclockwise rule is negative yx. So xy translates to negative yx. So now we just follow that rule for these points. We have 1, negative 1, 4, 1, and 4, negative 3. So following that rule, the y is going to go first. It's going to change sign. It's going to be positive 1, and x remains positive 1. Y will change the sign to negative 1, x stays positive 4, and y changes the sign to 3, x remains positive 4. So those points will be your answer according to this rule. So remember, those are the answers. So now number 12, what type of transformation do you see? Well, it looks like a mirror image. Looks like this was being reflected across the line, so I would say reflection. Simple as that. Number 13, which mapping represents a rotation 270 degrees clockwise about the origin? So 270 degrees clockwise is the same as 90 degrees counterclockwise. So we're going to have to keep that in mind as well on your cheat sheet. The 90 degree counterclockwise is the rule we just wrote down a second ago, which is negative yx. So that's going to be option C. Xy translates to negative yx. Number 14, what is the image of the point negative 10, 6 after 90 degrees clockwise rotation? Counterclockwise rotation. So again, 90 degree counterclockwise is that same rule. Xy translates to negative yx. So we're moving this point, so negative 10, 6. If we translate that point according to the rule, then the y will go first. It'll change its sign, so it'll become a negative 6, and the x will go second. It'll keep its sign as negative 10. So negative 6, negative 10 would be our answer. If we follow the rule for number 15, a 180 degree rotation, 180 degrees is xy translates to negative x, negative y. So we're just going to do that with all 3 points. We have 3, 1, we have 1, 3, and we have 4, 5. That's just the original points. Now if we take the rule, then we're going to just change all the signs. So this becomes negative 3, negative 1. This becomes negative 1, negative 3. And the last one becomes negative 4, negative 5. So those become your answer for number 15. And then number 16, you have 1 point reflected across the y-axis. So that's the y-axis rules. Xy translates to, let's see, negative xy. So negative 3, 2 is our point. We're going to follow this rule. So the x value is going to change its sign. So become a positive 3. But the y value will keep its sign, positive 2. So 3, 2 would be the answer for that one there. Number 17, reflect the triangle across the line y equals x. So again, you're following the rule. Let's put it over here. So we have the points negative 1, negative 2, 1, 1, and 4, negative 3. Now the rule we're following for y equals x is xy transforms to yx. So you just kind of reverse the terms. So we're going to have, this will be negative 2, negative 1. When you switch 1, 1, it'll still remain 1, 1. If you switch 4, negative 3, it becomes negative 3, 4. So those are your answers. Again, it's just following the rules. So take the rules and apply them. You've got your set of answers. So now, number 18, we have a point, 7, negative 8. And we are transforming it by adding 3 to x and subtracting 4 to y. So we're going to add 3 to x, so 7 plus 3 becomes 10. And then subtract 4 from y. So negative 8 minus 4 becomes negative 12. So you have the point 10, negative 12 as your answer. Do the same thing in number 19. We're going to subtract 8 from x. So our x value is 2. So if you subtract 8, then 2 minus 8 is going to become negative 6. We're going to add 2 to y. So if you add 2 to 3, the y value, then 3 plus 2 makes 5. So our answer is negative 6, 5. Now number 20, the drawing illustrates, this is which type of triangle similarity. We saw this one in our triangle similarity review. We have two sides corresponding, and then we have the angle between the two sides corresponding. So with two sides and an angle between it, this creates a side angle side similarity. Number 21, which postulate theorem can be used to prove two triangles are similar. Now these triangles are kind of broken, and that's fine. They have three angles corresponding, but the similarity theorem that we talked about isn't really a similarity because you don't need all three A's, you just need two A's. So technically the answer would just be angle similarity. Because there are no sides that correspond here to be similar, what you have is essentially you have at least two. You could have three, which we have here, but all you need is two. One and then two pairs of congruent angles, and you have angle similarity. So notice there are no sides that are paired. There's no lines indicating that sides pair up or anything like that. It's just the angles. So if it's just angles, then it's just angle similarity, or you can think of it as just angle similarity. Number 22, the triangles formed by two ladders leaning against a wall are similar. How long is the shorter ladder? So we saw this one in our review as well. So we're looking for the length of the ladder. Here, we're going to call that x, but we're relating it to the other ladder. So the other ladder, we're just setting up our ratios and then cross multiplying. The other ladder has 54 feet corresponding to 30. And so for the small ladder, we have x feet corresponding to 10. So that's just setting up the ratios and now cross multiplying. So 54 times 10 is 540. 30 times x is 30x. So just take 540 and divide it by 30, and we have x equal to 18. So the length of the ladder is 18 feet. And then just a few more problems. So again, number 23 is setting up your ratios again. You have a 74-inch tall person with a 111-inch shadow, corresponding with an X tall child with a 45-inch shadow. So again, you set up those proportions, those fractions like we've done, and you cross multiply. So you have 111 times X, and you have 74 times 45. 74 times 45 is 3,330. So just take that divided by 111, and we get 30. X is equal to 30. So 30 inches tall, the sun is. And then number 24 and 25, again, are just sort of draw a picture, right? So you have for number 24, you have a tower that's 65 feet tall and a shadow that's 13 feet long. A shed that has a shadow that's 2 feet long. How tall is the shed? So your ratio would be 65 to 13 as the tower to its shadow, then x to 12 as the shed to its shadow. So when you cross multiply, we'll have 13 times x, and then 65 times 12, which is 780. Divide by 13, we have x equal to 60. So the shed is 60. That isn't. Oh yeah, that is right. That works. Oh, I wrote 12 instead of 2. Oops, hold on. I gotta fix this. I did that wrong. So 65 times 2, not 65 times 12. That's 130. So divide by 13, you have x equal to 10. That's what it was. So I wrote there. So that's my fault, but we're good. And then number 25, one more picture. We have a tree that is 14 feet tall, has an 8-foot shadow, and a flagpole that has a 10-foot shadow. How tall is the flagpole? So again, your ratios, we can say 14 to 8, the height to its shadow, as x is to 10, the height to the shadow. So just cross multiply one more time. That's 8x equal to 140. So then just divide by 8. 140 divided by 8 becomes 17.5. So the height of the flagpole is 17.5 feet. Yeah, I kind of went through that pretty quick. I understand, but I mean, a lot of it's just kind of showing you the process. You should have already learned this. If you want any more detail about any particular problem, then you can go back and watch the original part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 of the review. This was just an encompassing, kind of give you the answer, show you the work kind of thing. But if you have other questions, just let me know, or go back and watch some of those old exam videos, the review videos, review part 1, 2, 3, or 4. And good luck on your exam. Okay? And have a good spring break as well. Bye.